Hello everyone and welcome back to the page. So I'm getting a lot of questions of, hey, I see you throw a lot of bait casters. I don't see you using a lot of spinning reels. Can you show me how to properly throw a bait caster? So that's a great question. But before you can cast that bait caster, you gotta make sure that you properly dial in that rod. So what we'll be going over this video is how to properly dial in that rod to make sure your rod's ready to go before you make that first cast and possibly throw that bird's nest. So stay tuned and hopefully this will help you out. All right, this video is for beginners, but also for avid fishermen, weekend fishermen. This can also help you out when you're out there on the water. I'm going to talk about some different conditions that you might want to dial your rod in. And some conditions that you might want to dial that rod in is if you have heavy wind conditions, or if you're changing out your baits constantly throughout the day, or if you're changing the line capacity or the thickness of the line on your reel as you're fishing. You want to make sure that you're dialing in that rod. And what that does is it makes you get max performance out of that cast when you cast towards into the wind, or if you're trying to properly place that bait in that hole right into the fish's mouth. So let's get into it and show you how to properly dial them in. So first we'll talk about the different dials on the side of your rods and reels. Okay, so the large star that's right near the actual handle of your reel, what that does is if you were to back it all the way off, that's going to allow drag to come out and allow your line to pull out. So it's almost like twisting the top of your spinning reels and to allow the drag to come out. That's what that's going to do for you. What you want to do is on whenever you're using a spinning reel or a bait caster, you want to allow a little bit of drag out. If you're going to be fishing light line, or if you're going to be fishing conditions where you want to give the fish a little bit of slack to make sure you're not going to break off that lower 8-pound, 10-pound line. If you're fishing 25 or maybe 65-pound braid, you don't care so much about the drag. You might want to crank that all the way down. So again, different conditions will tell you when to crank down that star drag all the way down. If I'm going to be frog fishing, I want to make sure I have it cranked all the way down, because when I jerk back and get that Fish America, I want to make sure that that large hook is going to be penetrating into the roof of the mouth of that fish, and I have a really good hookups ratio with that bait. So you don't want to have any kind of slack or give when you go to set that hook. So that's pretty much covers the star drag. All right, so let's talk about what this dial does on the side. So if you're riding along for the first time on my boat and you say, hey, I'm brand new to the bait caster, show me how to cast it. What I'm going to tell you to do is crank this all the way down so it's nice and snug. And what that's going to do is if you click the bell, you shouldn't see that bait move at all. You shouldn't see any movement on that bait. As you take and turn and release the tension on that dial, you should start to see your bait slowly start moving. So I'm clicking it, and there it is. My bait started moving. When you see that, now the next step is to allow it to go down to the deck of your boat. In this case, we're in the garage, so it goes down to the deck. What I don't want to see is loops. I don't want to see any kind of backlash. Once it hits the deck, you want that bait to stop, and you don't want the spool to keep moving and start seeing backlash come out into your reel. So I'm going to allow that bait. I'm going to click the bell. I'll allow that bait to go down. It hits the deck. I shouldn't see any backlash come into the reel, and that means it's properly dialed in. So again, it depends on how you're fishing. So for right now, if I was going to make this cast, a long cast, I should be good to go. I shouldn't have any backlash. If I want to make a further cast, I might loosen up the drag a little more to allow me to get a little further cast. Without a lot of effort. If I want to stay close around the boat and I'm not going to be making a lot of far pitches or cast, I might dial it back in just to allow me not to have that chance of backlashing, or if I was to hit, I'm in close quarters, like hitting into thick vegetation or brush. Sometimes that bait will hit that brush, stop, and you'll have a little bit of a backlash. So I may dial in that dial a little more to allow me not to have that risk of a little bit of backlash. If I'm skipping, I might tighten it up a little bit. Again, these are all, it depends on how you're fishing, and this is how you easily make those quick adjustments. If I'm changing baits, I'm going to make that quick adjustment. If I'm fishing a heavy bait, a ½ ounce, and then I switch to a lighter bait, I need to redial my reel in. You're going to go to the throat, and you're going to have a backlash. If I'm casting in the wind, you need to change that dial on there to make sure that you're allowing for that resistance of that wind as you're throwing up into the wind to allow your reel not to backlash. So again, hopefully this helps. And again, if you're a beginner, that's the first thing I would do. Make sure you dial in that rod and reel combo and make sure that it's ready to go before you make that first cast. Again, please hit that like button, follow, and hopefully this helped you. Let me know in the comments if this helped you out, and check out my other videos.